Welcome to Ladies-in-Law, where real-world advice meets professional wisdom and empowerment in realms of law and business. Your hosts, Lisa Goucher, Dawn Smith, and Kellye Raymond, bring you innovative strategies, practical guidance, and inspirational stories. Join us as we inspire and support women to thrive in traditionally male-dominated fields. We're here to promote inclusivity and provide practical advice for success. Happy New Year! Lisa here with Dawn and Kellye. This is our first podcast of the new year, and we couldn't be more stoked. We thought it was totally appropriate. We talked about it like, what are we going to talk about? What should we do for this year? And really, we couldn't start it off any other way if we didn't talk about New Year's resolutions, do you, don't you, goals. So I'm going to ask you, Kellye, do you set New Year's resolutions?
I absolutely set New Year's resolutions. I'm a list maker. Some people do a vision board or, whatever medium they like to use to put. I like to put pen to paper and make a list of all the things that I fell short on the year before. To varying degrees. Sometimes it's more broad, like eat healthier. Or sometimes it's very specific, stretch 5 times a week or something like that. But I like making a list so that I can see it, and it just makes it easier for me to actually accomplish something if I write them down. But I absolutely always do resolutions.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
all right.
I love it.
So, Dawn, your take on it for the new year?
So I go back and forth, exactly, because at the end of the year when you haven't accomplished something that you set out to, it just stinks, right? So you're
like my resolutions make me feel bad.
Failure, exactly. So I just had listened to some folks talk about really just coming up with themes for your year or guiding principles for your year.
I like that.
And that's what I did this year. We went to a conference in Atlanta through our coaching team, CRISP, and John Morgan spoke. And I've seen him speak a bunch of times, but he really did a new, just really kind of reformatted his standard talk that I've heard before.
What does he speak on?
So he really just kind of talked about all of the life lessons that he's learned over time, like principles that he wishes he could pass on or that he'd like to pass on to guide people. And he told us about, he's got like a big neon wall where in his operations center, and it says, "Done is better than perfect." Done is better than perfect, and that's my New Year's theme, I guess I would say.
I've heard that one similar to that, but it's progress over perfection.
Yes, see, that's
totally
very similar. Yeah, because I get so caught up in the minutia of stuff and just I'll go over something over and over and over again just to try to make it perfect.
It's paralysis by analysis.
Yes.
I think I suffer from that too. Lisa, what about you? Resolution girl?
All right. I'll be the one to say, I think kind of the New Year thing is annoying. The New Year resolutions, because we all know, statistically speaking, people do not stick to them. So I am a list person. I am a goal-oriented person. But just like, for instance, regarding the health and fitness, I started in November because I didn't want to be that January 1st person. And then, what that did is it kept me on track instead of just totally derailing with the holiday meals and the things that are going on. But I am totally up for writing everything down, having your goals written down, your wants, your needs. There's just so many ways to do it. Okay, so we were talking about this last night, Kellye, right? Really, January, when it's cold and dreary?
Yes. Why do we do the resolutions in January when we're supposed to be hibernating? We were having this conversation. Spring really does feel like a more appropriate time of year in terms of new growth and warmer weather. That's
bouncing your step, right? With the warm weather.
Yes, and I will say, I really like your idea of starting before January so that you're 100%. Already sort of getting into. It's just creating habits, right? My New Year didn't actually start until like January 7th.
We had a lot of snow in Dallas.
Snow.
Yeah.
We were
Careful,
traveling.
careful. There
to.
are many parts of the country listening. When you say so much snow,
I mean, 6 inches for Dallas. I mean, it's shut
is.
down.
It did shut down.
But I think that, like, Dawn, what you were saying about sort of feeling bad if you're not able to accomplish, that's why I like to make the list so that I can see it. And again, some things are very specific so that it is easier to hit that mark that I'm looking to do. But I'm not so crazy about any of my New Year's resolutions. It could be as simple as like read the newspaper every day, or practice your Spanish, at least 4 times a week or something like that. But
Habla?
Are you doing that?
Habla español?
Un poquito, yes, just a little bit. But I don't ever, and maybe this is a little bit cheating, but I don't ever feel like my resolutions are that serious where if I don't accomplish it, I'm going to feel bad about it.
Right.
I'm like, well, I'm just trying to stretch a little more next year if we get to the end of the year and I've fallen short on that goal.
Well, that's good. I mean, I guess if you have just kind of healthy habits are good just to do all the time. I don't know. I set lofty goals.
You do. You are such a dreamer. It's something I really admire about you. But yeah, you're like accomplishing and setting really big goals. Mine are just really small. And so that makes it a little bit easier to achieve, I think, sometimes.
Well, so that means, like, Kellye, you're just looking for a win. And you see it as a win, no matter what it is, even so small. And a lot of people identify with that because that's the progress, right? And then Dawn over here, our dreamer, like she's knocking it out of the ballpark and she sees her wins as the pinnacle.
Right.
And it's just interesting because people function differently. So, for the folks who don't believe in it and they think that it's just a bunch of hoopla and it's not going to happen. Really, the best way that I can compare is we all have budgets, right? Your household budget, your work budget. You don't just go shopping and do all your things and then like come back home and decide, oh, okay, well, I can't pay my house payment this month.
Yeah.
So, doing your goals and what you aspire to do in your life personally, fitness, career, financial, it's like a budget. If you've got it written down,
right,
then you have it to refer to, and then your mind, they just say that we do not capitalize on everything that our brain can do, and our brain doesn't know the difference between reality and fantasy. So when you're reiterating your goals on the daily, you are unknowingly reprogramming your life.
Yeah.
And
I'd be so curious to, I can't think of a person off the top of my head that doesn't do resolutions, but I'm always curious about those folks. And like, why is that, right? For me, my resolutions, like I said, they can be small, but they're all a way to let me try to grow a little bit. Let me try to do things a little bit better. And to kind of just generally be a better person. I never understand people who are like, nope, I don't want to grow. I don't want to better myself. Like, really, there's nothing you could work on in the new year?
It's just the fear of failure.
Yeah.
I think it is, right?
Yeah.
It's the fear of not accomplishing those things that are important to you. And then having to face it at the end of the year is just like, wah, wah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, just little steps, just to be better every day as opposed to necessarily having these huge benchmarks or doing quarterly, like get quarterly check-ins. So, you've got this goal for the year and then you check in with yourself. Where am I at the end of the first quarter, into the second quarter? Because then you can just readjust and reapply that energy that you started with. I think that's kind of a good way to stay on track too.
Yeah. And I think it's perfectly okay to just keep starting over.
Yeah.
Right? You get to February and you're like, shoot, the thing that I said on January 1st I was going to start, or in my case, January 7th, what I was going to start doing, I haven't done. And just start over. I mean, there's nobody, it's really your own worst enemy if you're putting up that roadblock of, oh, I didn't succeed in what I set out to do. Just keep doing it. Just keep starting over. So what were some of your resolutions? Since you're our big dreamer, what have you been cooking up?
Well, I mean, we've got all kinds of business goals that we have, right? Personal goals and business goals. I feel like those are separate. I love doing this podcast with you ladies. So that's one of my goals, to figure out how to keep on just having great guests on, keep on, adding value. I just think, and I was talking to you guys last night, I love getting together with both of you. And if this is a good reason for us to get together and just talk to each other, because I always learn so much from both of you. And I think we've had some really great guests on.
I was just going to say that. I think we've had so many great guests. That's really the challenge and the goal for 2025, I think, for the podcast is keep bringing really, really quality guests on, because we heard from some great people in 2024.
Yeah. And then I also, when I was coming up as a young lawyer, I didn't have anyone to really listen to with good, sound business advice, personal advice, somebody that was kind of in the trenches and had gone through the trenches to help guide and lead. There was nothing like this when I was brand new lawyer, and when you were coming up, there's very few women that were leading firms. And
if they were, they weren't talking about
exactly.
Yeah, well, they weren't connecting. Right. So speaking of the guests, the thing about it, the different guests that you have brought to us over the last year, now I know them. Yeah. And have a relationship with them. And it's just so interesting how the connections just lend itself to other people that you didn't even know that they knew. And
100%.
It's really a wonderful thing. And honestly, we're in New Orleans today because of a guest, Lexley Overton, that we had on a couple months back. And we built that relationship. She's having a conference here. Dawn's speaking at it. Kellye happened to be here for a work-related matter. We wouldn't be in New Orleans today doing this and connecting with them and connecting with Megan, also with
Hargrover.
legends. Yeah. Megan, what's her last name?
Hargrover. Yes.
Megan Hargrover, which we had her on the podcast as well. So just for those of you who listen again and again, the connections that we're making, we want to make those same connections with you.
And that really is, I think, as a big business owner or a small business owner or a lawyer, really anybody in an entrepreneurial space or with that spirit, and one day you want to get there, making connections and being in front of people and meeting people new. You never know who you're going to meet and what they may be able to help you with, or what you may be able to help them with down the road. And that is, I think, really the backbone of being successful in whatever it is you're doing, is making good connections, learning from those connections, and just continuing to grow your network.
Yeah, and making sure that you're contributing, right? What are you doing to kind of add to the conversation? Mm-hmm. That's the only way. I feel like women have just been bad networkers. In my experience, I just don't think they're as good in business relationships and in probably personal relationships a little bit more, but in business relationships, I think that this is kind of a different era, and maybe it's just the season that I feel like I'm in. The people that you meet at any level, there's something that you can learn from them. There's a way you can grow, and what can you contribute to them, and how can you connect them with somebody else?
Yeah. Absolutely. Because people remember that, right? Helping somebody, not always just looking for how can, speaking of networking, I used to be terrified of networking, walking into a room and feeling like I have to sell myself. And it felt so transparent, and you're just making small talk, and it was not enjoyable for me. It's just not, and so I would not want to. It was one of the early into my business. My husband and I had an argument about it because I was invited to this great Dallas firm's Christmas party, kind of legendary, and I didn't want to go. And I was like, I'm only going to know 2 out of hundreds of people, and that just did not sound fun. And he was so mad at me. He's like, you have got to network. He's have got to get out and do it. And the more you do it, the easier it starts to become, right? And the more people that you meet, then you're not walking into a room where you feel like you don't know anybody. But I think the mindset shift of not what can I get from somebody else if I'm meeting them, or are they going to give me business? It's who can I connect them with, or what can I do to help them, even if it's a really small thing, or just asking somebody oh, how's your kid doing, right? I think those little things really helped me to sort of get out of my own way, and not just be thinking about like, oh, how can I get somebody to hire me?
100%. I mean, that's so true. And you feel good about yourself too.
Yeah.
If you're helping other people connect and learn and just be able to build on where they're at to get to the next level, if that's what they're trying to accomplish, you're like, oh, okay, I'm kind of giving back a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Well, in talking about the business networking, actually, I think it's easier than personal networking, especially once you get to the point that you're in a career. You already have most of your friendships established, right? The people that you talk to, that you vent to, your girlfriends. So then when you start thinking about the business component to it, if you can get yourself over it, switch to the mindset that Kellye was talking about, when you walk into that setting, there's a common denominator there. Everybody is there to network. So get over yourself and have an opportunity to connect, by, oh, you're at this firm. Oh, I know so-and-so. Actually, it's easier to connect at a business level after just a little bit of small talk, because it's a small community, right? The legal community.
100%.
I mean, if you don't know the person you're speaking to directly, I'm pretty certain you're going to know somebody that they know, and right away that lifts that. And then that's when you start to build that. So if this year is your year to start networking and you just fear doing that, just know that when you walk into that room, you're going to have connections with people, even just through the small talk.
I'm going to add that to my list of resolutions. Just get over yourself.
that is a good one. I like that. I'm not getting over myself. I'm just I refuse.
Well, why is it you think, though, we talked a little bit about why folks might not keep a resolution, fear of failure, maybe being too hard on yourself. What are some other reasons maybe that people are not able to keep their resolutions?
Because it's hard. It's hard to be consistent every day. I mean, the most successful people are consistent in what they do every single day. Like, you have an amazing routine. You were talking to us this morning at breakfast about, the supplements, the water. She brings her shakes. Apparently she went through
I'm not bringing healthy things to New Orleans. Very admirable, Lisa.
Lisa is so regimented that she brings her protein powder with her, which I bring little packets, but she apparently brought a huge bag of
Not
protein
this
powder.
time. I'm only here for a night. That was another instance. Stayed more than a night.
And she got
But yes.
stopped.
Yeah.
And what happened?
They took away my vegan protein. They said it had explosive components to it. I was like, I'll eat it right here. I'll eat it right here. That's like $100 bag of protein. Because I didn't want to check a bag.
That's so
when
funny.
you're
Yeah.
well traveled, you can pack everything, even
Yes,
if you're
you can.
staying for several days.
Yes.
There is
Rule
a
number
way.
1, never check a bag.
Never check a bag.
Right.
I recently hired a new assistant, and she's traveling to focus groups with me. And the first flight, and this is my fault as a business owner and a leader. Sometimes you just have to say the things that you just assume people will know. It was a one-night trip.
Oh,
and
she did not check a bag.
She checked a bag, and I was like,
Jeez.
I was like,
Fired.
Never, not fired, but never do that again.
We are not waiting for your bag.
Never do that again. But people that don't travel very often
Right.
just don't think about those things. But it was a good lesson for me. Like, you can't just assume that
Right.
people. I tend to be a very hands off. I don't like to micromanage my employees, but you have to tell them sometimes too.
Are you making a checklist if for the future? I know you just hired somebody else. You're going to have this checklist. Gabby's like, make sure you
I learned
only
my
bring
lesson. I've always got to tell them, don't check.
You are not checking a bag. You are not checking a bag.
But it's funny, this idea of being consistent, right? Because that's really all it is. I think too many times folks think, I have to wait to be motivated to try something or to keep doing something. Oh, and I don't have my motivation, so I can't do it. You cannot tie, especially if you're getting into a new routine and a new habit, tying it to motivation will never work.
Never.
No.
Because motivation waxes and wanes, and I don't feel like working out in the morning. Like, if I only worked out when I felt like it, that would be a problem. You just have to do it. It's really about being consistent and not relying on motivation to
Yes.
be the driving factor.
The true test is doing it when it's hard.
Right.
Like when you're motivated and you're fired up and you're going, like, yeah, that's easy peasy, right? You
Yeah.
feel so accomplished. But the true accomplishment with the consistency is doing it when you don't want to. Whatever it is. And I truly believe, you asked like, why don't people keep their resolutions? Well, if you don't write it down, you've got to have it written down and you have to look at it.
Yes.
Like that whole process of ingraining it in your mind. And Mel Robbins, like I love her. If you don't follow her, you should. But one of the things that really put her on the map, and her personal story is wonderful and motivating. But when she was in like the worst of the worst place, couldn't get her butt out of bed, she just decided, okay, I'm just gonna do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Like she wasn't giving her brain, and there's some science behind it. So if you get her book or listen to her podcast, she'll explain the science. But if you allow your brain the time to think
talk
about,
you out of it.
Yeah, because our brain actually isn't our best friend. When working out, our brain would, if you give it time, it'll say, yeah, that's going to hurt and I don't want to do it.
cold,
So
it's
I'm not
early.
going to.
Yeah.
So the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So if you need a suggestion on how to get your booty going on whatever it is your resolutions are, I strongly recommend you do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Lisa,
5, 4, 3,
what do
2,
you-
1,
I
go.
think I need 10 seconds.
No, because there's
Too much
science
time
behind
for
it.
your
That
brain to
extra
think.
5, you're
Come
not going to
on.
go.
Lisa, this has really helped me months ago on a podcast. You talked about, is it the 3 things or the 5 things
Oh, yes.
that you'll get done?
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5?
3 out of 5. I had to do that because that was in the throes of when the kids were little and I was traveling a bunch and life was chaotic, and I had to have some method that was easily accountable and didn't add any stress to my life. So what I decided back then, like probably 10 years ago, or no, because the kid, like more than that, gosh, time flies so quickly. However many years ago, it was like my 3 out of 5 program. And my 3 out of 5 program was, if I do at least 3 of these things daily, then I am good and I am healthy. And if I do more than 3, like, whoo, it's a banner day. So my things are: drink your water, get your rest, exercise, take your supplements, and what was the other one?
I know. I'm trying to
Eat,
think.
supplements, exercise, drink your water, and
Put laundry away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said the
No,
first one you
rest.
missed was eat healthy.
Yeah.
The
yes.
first one you
I mean, it's really common things that we're supposed to do on the daily. Also, you either embrace wellness and preventative, or you're just somebody that's like, I'm just gonna doctor the symptoms that present themselves. So that's a very
That's
different. That's like a
huge, yeah.
MD mindset versus a granola mindset. So I'll just tell y'all, I'm in the middle. I believe in MDs, but I also believe very granola. So like if I'm in a terrible accident or something like that happens, or some crazy issues, I'm going to the MD, right?
I think that's good.
I
That's
am
smart.
going. However, I'm not relying 100% on the MD for everything. I'm still taking my own health into account, and I'm still going to do the granola things and everything related to, getting my hormones checked, doing very grounding, red light therapy. Those things make me feel good. Once my granddaughter was born in October of 2023, and it was interesting to me because this happened to me when my firstborn was born in 1998. Steve and I had been married for 10 years, and then we had Mallory. That was a choice. We needed to grow up. We needed to be able to pay our bills. So finally, at the age of 31, I had Mallory, and when I did, I had a whole new perspective that, like, oh my goodness, I have to stay on this earth and raise this child. And so that's when I really became more health conscious and just doing everything I could so that I am here for as long as needed to raise my children. Well, the same thing happened when Giselle was born. I'm like, all right. First, I started out saying, I want to live till I'm 100. And then I was like, well, no,
I do not want to live
I
that
don't
long.
want to live till I'm 100 because I've heard people say they want to live till they're 100 and then they like die like that day. So I changed it. I want to live to 110. So I have to do the things over and above just the MD route to make sure that I am aging backwards.
Those are, I mean, certainly your family is a great reason to kind of be healthy and want to be the best version of yourself. But I think to be a successful business owner, I think you've got to be firing on all cylinders.
Yes.
And, when I was a young jury consultant and I'd come to New Orleans for a mock trial and we'd go out and we'd have fun and then I would feel like shit the next day. And I can't do that anymore, and I don't want to do that, right? I'm not giving the best version of myself in my work and for my clients if I don't feel like I'm taking care of myself.
True.
I mean, this is not a nuanced idea, right? It's the reason why self-care is really so important. I think it makes you such a better business owner. It makes you a better boss. It makes you a better colleague if you feel like you're a good version of yourself. Maybe not the best version of yourself, but if you are at least trying to become a better version of yourself every day, I feel like it really lends itself well to like trying to check the boxes you're trying to do business-wise.
It's all about momentum. So momentum is so important. So you have one good day and then you have another good day and it just builds and builds when you feel good about what you're doing. And I think if you don't feel good, you can't give your best. But there are sacrifices to that. Like we had a couple glasses of wine last night. And this morning
we are in New Orleans after all.
I checked my Whoop this morning. We were talking about, I don't know if y'all have heard about Whoop, but
No.
it's a health monitor. It monitors your HRV, which is your wavelength between
It's a much cuter version of a Fitbit.
shout out to Whoop. But I got my daughter one. She's an athlete and very competitive, and it had just come out about, I don't know, 5 or 7 years ago, something like that. And Michael Phelps, who's a swimmer, my daughter's a swimmer, I was like, I'm going to get that for her. And she's been wearing it. There's a community associated with it, but it measures your sleep, it measures your recovery, it measures all of that. And I woke up this morning and mine was 20%. 20. I was in the red this morning.
See, I would have taken that bracelet off the minute I got to New Orleans. Yeah, I wasn't happy with you, huh?
No. So we have to have a light day today. So that's why I'm here with you ladies. So
This is easy and enjoyable. And then also talking about momentum. Success loves speed. So
I love that.
Once you start creating that momentum, the success comes as well. Mm-hmm. And I think, hopefully, Kellye, everybody that watches has the same natural progression that as you age, the partying scene, we could do that. We could recover when we were younger. Yeah. But then your priorities change, right? Which as they should. Yeah. As a business owner, and you want growth and you want evolution and whatever that looks like for you, there's got to be sacrifices made, and it might just be, okay, well, I don't want to party like I used to. I'm going to be to bed by 10.
Right, absolutely.
Or even 9.
Yeah, I'm usually in bed by 9.
We were up late last night. That was a late night for me to get into bed after 11. Yeah.
And then we're in a hotel room, and my hotel room has stairs.
Yeah. She could have done her workout right here. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Well, we just want, for one thing, I wanted to tell you guys, thank you so much for going on this adventure with me. And I feel like I've grown so much as a person getting to talk to you and all of our amazing guests. I just feel like this has been such a great experience being with you guys every day. So like I said, my New Year's resolution is to continue being able to add value to both of you and to our listeners, and just bringing people that have something to share that's special and different and inspiring for the new year. I just say it's a new year, it's a new start.
Yeah.
Tell us what your resolutions are. If you don't make them, tell us that too.
Yeah.
And I feel like the biggest thing for me is this is a list of things for me that I just feel like I could be better in this area or make myself a little bit better, push myself a little bit harder. And if I don't do it as fully intended, guess what? I'm going to start again next week, or I'm going to start again next month, or whatever it is. I would say, right, the biggest holdback for people is not, or just feeling like, oh, I didn't accomplish it, and so now I'm just done. We'll just start again.
Just start again.
Yeah, start over. Yeah, and I feel the same. I think this is a great way to start the year too, just us being together in New Orleans, a different setting, spending some additional time together last night and today. It really is a great way to set the year off. And then I just wanted to share a component to the list that I make. And I couldn't think of this podcast that I'd listened to, but I was on a flight that had no Wi-Fi, and I had one podcast downloaded. I was coming off a vacation. I did not want to listen to anything motivational, but then I needed something to listen to. And the only podcast I had downloaded was Napoleon Hill, The Secret Formula for Success. And it was 90 minutes long. I kind of like dozed in and out, but it just touched on a bunch of different things. This specific motivational speaker, through the course of time, he'd taken all of his experience and just condensed it into 90 minutes and gave you the nuggets for each. So I loved that aspect of it. But one of the things that he mentioned in this podcast, once again, you have to write your goals down, and so few people do that.
It's like a grocery list,
yes,
right? Like you
exactly.
go to the store with
I don't
no
use
list.
a grocery list.
See?
I don't. My husband goes crazy. I don't use a list.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I understand the importance.
He broke it down into 7 categories, but for Dawn, there's actually 8 categories. So I'm going to tell you what the 7 categories are, and then I'm going to add the Dawn category. So what you do is on a sheet of paper, you write down these 7 categories. If you're Dawn, you add the 8, and you write 3 things under each of them. And here's the categories: financial, career, personal, health, volunteer contribution, fun, and relationship. So obviously financial speaks for itself, right? You want to be in a certain financial position. Career, like where do you want to be in your career? You would write 3 things down there. Personal, it could be like what Kellye said, do Spanish on the daily, just read daily. So that's what I consider the personal goals. But obviously you could put any 3 that you want. Health relates to supplements, exercising, volunteering, contributing, like how do you want to contribute to society? How do you want to give back? Fun, you've got to write down your fun goals. So after basically forced listening to that Napoleon Hill success speech, I came home and I did this list of 7 different categories. And so this is what I recommend. Like if you struggle writing things down, I think you got to keep it simple. So this has 7 categories. 1, I've just added an 8th for Dawn. After listening to Kellye call her the dreamer, I'm like, oh, I know there's other dreamers out there. So I'm going to tell you what the normal people should write down and the 3 underneath them. So
Special dreamer category.
Yeah, the special dreamer. So the 7 are your financial, write 3 things under that. Career, 3 under that. Personal. So like when Kellye was talking about like doing Spanish or reading on the daily, like that's what I consider your personal goals. Health speaks for itself. Your volunteer, your contribution, your giving back. Like how do you want to give back? It's really important that you incorporate that into your life because it makes you feel good. And they always say giving is better than receiving. So write 3 ways you want to give back. Fun. Doesn't it sound crazy? But you need to write down things that you want to do for fun. Trips that you want to take with your girlfriends. Trips that you want to take with your family. You need to write them down because that way they will actually happen. And then last, but definitely not least, before we talk about the special category for Dawn, is relationships. Like, what do you want out of the relationships you currently have? What are you seeking as far as relationships? So I did this in the summer of 2023. And I just have to tell you, it was truly life-changing, like things that I didn't think would happen, because some of them were the 8th category, which is specifically, I'm just adding for Dawn, is the scare me goals. So the scare me goals are the things that you think like are so ridiculous, they could never happen. Now, Dawn just believes they're going to happen, but for the rest of us, you may not be a dreamer, to that degree because you're just thinking, oh gosh, that is never going to happen. All right, we'll create that 8th category and the scare me goals. Like, what really scares you?
I think that's awesome.
What do you want? Like, is it to stand up in an auditorium and speak to 1,000 people? You know, it could be whatever works for you. Is it winning the lottery? It's really anything that works for you. So if you truly struggle trying to figure out, well, how am I going to get everything whipped into shape? One very, very important thing that came out of this podcast that was truly life-changing for me was that, did you know that for every hour you visualize your goals equates to 7 hours of physical activity?
No way.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
It is true.
So
it
listen,
is.
that is like,
How do we know?
it is
It's
mind-blowing.
It is true.
You could be driving to
There's
work,
scientific studies.
visualizing, because you know you'll get to the point that you'll memorize them, right? And you'll know them because you've written them down. You go over them. You hold the paper for a while. You take a screenshot of the paper so you have it when you're not at home, and then you just know them. So then you're in the car and you're driving and you're doing it. So even if you don't do it an hour, I'm not saying you have to do it an hour. That's the scientific data says.
That's if you want the 7 hours.
Every single hour equates to 7 hours of physical activity. How else can you get more bang for your buck as far as hours and time out of a day?
I mean, you might as well. You're in the car a lot. That's why you're so successful.
Yes, I mean, that to me, that was like,
But I really love the Dawn specific dreamer category because I think that a lot of times, and I definitely am guilty of this, that I just tend to think like what's right in front of me. But I think when you think small, you live small. And I really do think that like putting pen to paper and actually thinking about what are the dreams that are just unattainable, right?
Right.
Maybe they're not.
Write
but
them
if
down.
Yeah. If you think big, I think you live big.
It's a BHAG.
Yeah.
Does everybody know BHAG?
No.
Big, hairy, audacious goal.
Do you know, I just recently I was seeing BHAG and I was like, I don't know what the fuck this is. And I just went on about my day.
BHAG. Yeah. Everybody should have a BHAG. Go BHAG. Hashtag BHAG.
Never heard it either.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I love this. That's just another reason we come together.
That's right.
Yeah, learn
Learning
something
moment,
new.
teaching moment.
I try.
Thank you.
I try. I try.
Okay, I am super stoked, and I'm going to go write down all my goals because I
feel
haven't
like I
done
need
it yet.
Yeah,
Have
I'm
you?
ready to do
No,
it.
I haven't.
Have you?
Not yet?
All right,
It's
we're going to
happening.
do it. We want you to do it, and we would love for you to comment or just send us an email at hello@ladiesinlaw.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Ladies in Law. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to shake things up in law and business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and let us know what you think. Spread the word and share this podcast with your network. Follow us on socials for all the behind-the-scenes fun and sneak peeks of upcoming episodes. Until next time, keep rocking it, keep breaking the mold, and as always, keep aspiring to inspire.